Every year, millions of people do everything they are told to do: eat less, move more, sweat harder, skip meals, count calories, and still wake up with the same belly staring back at them. And that is not because they are weak, lazy, or undisciplined. It is because one important truth about belly fat is rarely explained clearly. Belly fat does not behave like other fat. It listens to different signals. It follows different rules. And when those rules are ignored, the body quietly resists change, no matter how hard someone tries. In this video, you are going to learn why belly fat is not just a food problem or an exercise problem, but a biological signal problem controlled by hormones, stress responses, and survival mechanisms that most people never hear about. You will learn why extreme dieting often makes belly fat more stubborn, why long hours of cardio can backfire, and why the body sometimes protects fat around the waist even while weight drops everywhere else. This is not about blaming doctors or experts. It is about understanding that common advice is simplified for the masses, and simplified advice leaves out critical details. Those missing details are the reason so many people feel stuck, frustrated, and confused. By the end of this video, you will understand what belly fat is actually responding to, what signals tell the body to store it, and what signals allow it to finally let go. You will see why belly fat is often the last place to change, and why forcing the body only teaches it to defend itself harder. There is a reason people in high stress lives gain belly fat even without overeating. There is a reason some people eat very little and still cannot lose fat around the waist. There is a reason calm routines often work better than extreme plans. These patterns are not accidents. They are built into human biology. This video will connect those dots in simple language, without hype, without complicated science, and without empty promises. You will walk away with a clearer picture of what has been working against you and what needs to change first, before any diet or workout can actually succeed. This knowledge can save years of effort, money, and disappointment, because once you understand the real driver of belly fat, your entire approach changes. Stay with this video until the end, because the most important insight comes after the confusion is cleared, and it explains why small changes in daily signals can unlock results that force never could. Welcome to our channel, where we break down health truths in a way that actually makes sense. If you want clear explanations, honest biology, and content that helps you work with your body instead of fighting it, subscribe now and stay connected for what comes next. Progress stalls quietly for many people, not because nothing is working, but because the body is responding exactly as it was designed to. Diets get stricter, portions get smaller, workouts get longer, yet the waistline barely moves, or worse, it tightens. This is the moment where frustration turns into self-blame. The assumption becomes simple: if effort is not producing results, the effort must be wrong or insufficient. So the response is to push harder: fewer calories, more steps, more sweat, less rest, and still the belly stays. This experience is so common that it almost feels personal, as if the body itself is being difficult on purpose. But what is really happening is far less emotional and far more mechanical. The body is reading signals. It is interpreting stress. It is deciding what to protect. And for many people, the signals they are sending every day tell the body that belly fat is not something to give up. This is where the confusion begins, because most advice focuses on visible actions instead of invisible signals. Food intake and movement are visible. Hormones and stress responses are not. So people change what they can see, while the real drivers continue quietly in the background. That gap between effort and outcome is not failure. It is a misunderstanding. And that misunderstanding is the reason so many people feel stuck even after doing everything they were told to do. The phrase "doctors hate this" is often misunderstood. It is not about conflict or hidden enemies. It is about how information is packaged. Medical advice is usually designed to be simple, safe, and broadly applicable. Eat less. Move more. These ideas work on paper. They work for some people. They work in controlled environments. But human bodies do not live on paper. They live under pressure, deadlines, poor sleep, emotional stress, and constant stimulation. When advice ignores those factors, it becomes incomplete. Not wrong, just unfinished. And unfinished advice can fail silently. Belly fat is where this failure shows up most clearly, because belly fat is not passive storage. It is active tissue. It responds to hormones more than habits. It listens to stress more than steps. Calories matter, but they are not the only language the body understands. When calories are reduced without changing stress signals, the body often compensates. It slows energy use. It increases hunger. It protects fat that feels important. And fat around the belly feels important because it sits close to vital organs. From a survival point of view, that area is priority storage. So when the body feels threatened, that is the last place it wants to let go. Most people are taught the same basic formula. Eat less food, burn more calories, add cardio, target the belly with exercises. This advice sounds logical. It feels actionable. And for short periods, it may even show results on the scale, but the scale does not tell the whole story. Weight can drop while belly fat stays. Muscle can shrink while fat remains. Water shifts can mask real changes. And spot reduction does not work the way it is often advertised. The body does not burn fat from where it is exercised. It burns fat based on hormonal signals and blood flow patterns. Doing endless crunches does not convince the body that belly fat is safe to release. Long cardio sessions can increase calorie burn, but they can also raise stress hormones, especially when paired with low food intake and poor recovery. When that happens, the body does not hear fat loss. It hears threat, and under threat, the body does not cooperate. It defends. That defense often shows up as stubborn fat around the waist. The hidden truth is that belly fat is not just stored energy, it is hormonally protected tissue. Hormones decide when fat is stored and when it is released. Two of the most important hormones in this process are insulin and cortisol. Insulin responds to blood sugar. It helps move energy into cells. When insulin is high often, fat storage is favored. Cortisol responds to stress. It helps mobilize energy for survival. When cortisol stays elevated for long periods, the body is pushed into a defensive state. In that state, it becomes more insulin resistant around the belly. That means the same amount of food leads to more fat storage in that area. This is not because of poor choices. It is because the body is prioritizing survival. Stress does not have to be emotional. It can come from lack of sleep. It can come from undereating. It can come from overtraining. It can come from constant stimulation and no recovery. The body does not separate these stresses. It adds them together. And when the total stress load stays high, belly fat becomes a shield. This is why effort alone does not solve the problem. More effort can increase stress. More restriction can increase cortisol. More cardio without recovery can deepen the signal that energy is scarce. From the body's perspective, scarce energy means fat should be protected, not released, especially fat near the organs. This is why some people lose fat from their face, arms, or legs first. Those areas are less critical for survival. The belly is different. It responds last because it is protected first. When people starve themselves, the body adapts quickly. Metabolism slows, hormones shift, hunger signals increase, and belly fat often becomes more resistant. This creates a cruel cycle. The harder someone tries, the more the body resists, not out of spite, but out of programming. Understanding this changes everything. It explains why two people can eat similar calories and see very different results. It explains why stress levels often predict belly fat better than diet quality alone. It explains why calm, consistent routines sometimes outperform extreme plans. Cortisol does not respond to logic. It responds to perceived threat. Insulin does not respond to intention. It responds to blood sugar and sensitivity. When both hormones are out of balance, belly fat storage becomes the default setting. And no amount of willpower can override that signal for long. Willpower is mental. Hormones are chemical. Chemistry wins. This does not mean food and movement do not matter. They do, but they matter in context. Eating less without stabilizing stress is like trying to drain a bathtub while the tap is still running. Exercising more without recovery is like revving an engine without oil. The system wears down, the body compensates, and compensation often looks like stubborn fat. Belly fat, in particular, is sensitive to sleep quality. Short sleep increases cortisol and disrupts insulin. Even one poor night can shift hormone balance. Chronic poor sleep almost guarantees resistance around the waist. This is why people who sleep well often lose fat more easily, even without perfect diets. Their bodies feel safe enough to let go. Another overlooked factor is consistency, not intensity. Consistency. Extreme plans spike stress. Moderate plans repeated daily reduce it. The body prefers predictable patterns. Regular meals, regular sleep, regular movement. These patterns tell the nervous system that the environment is stable. Stability lowers cortisol. Lower cortisol improves insulin sensitivity. Improved insulin sensitivity reduces belly fat storage. This chain reaction is slow, but it is powerful, and it is almost never explained clearly because it does not sell quick results. It requires patience. It requires understanding. And it requires letting go of the idea that harder is always better. The reason this truth feels uncomfortable is because it removes the illusion of control through force. It suggests that control comes from signals, not punishment. That fat loss is cooperation, not war. That the body is not an enemy to defeat, but a system to calm. When people finally shift this perspective, something changes. Hunger becomes manageable. Energy stabilizes, sleep improves, and over time, the belly responds. Not instantly, not dramatically, but steadily. This is not magic. It is biology responding to safety. Most people never hear this explained in simple terms. They hear fragments: eat better, move more, manage stress. But no one explains how these pieces connect. No one explains why stress can override calories. No one explains why starving backfires. No one explains why the belly plays by different rules. And without that explanation, people blame themselves. They assume their body is broken. It is not. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do under pressure. This understanding reframes the struggle. It turns confusion into clarity. It replaces guilt with logic, and it opens the door to approaches that actually work because they align with how the body thinks, not how people wish it would behave. When the signals change, the response changes. When stress drops, defenses drop. When insulin stabilizes, storage decreases. And when the body feels safe, belly fat finally stops being protected. Pushing harder feels like the logical response when results slow down. When the belly refuses to change, the instinct is to add more work and remove more food. Extra workouts are added, meals are cut smaller, rest is treated like weakness. At first, the scale may move, weight drops, clothes loosen in some areas, but the mirror tells a different story. The waist looks the same. Sometimes it even looks worse. This is where confusion turns into frustration. The effort is real. The discipline is real. Yet the outcome feels unfair. The reason this happens is not mysterious when the body's response to pressure is understood. Overtraining is not just movement. It is stress. Every intense workout sends a message to the nervous system. That message says energy is being demanded. When that demand happens too often without recovery, cortisol rises. Cortisol is designed to help short bursts of effort, not constant strain. When it stays high, the body shifts into protection mode. In that mode, fat loss is no longer the priority. Survival is the belly becomes a storage site because it is efficient and close to vital organs. So while arms and legs may shrink, the waist resists. The body is not being stubborn, it is being cautious. Undereating creates a similar problem. Food is information, not just fuel. When intake drops too low for too long, the body senses scarcity. It responds by slowing metabolism. Energy output decreases, hunger hormones rise, thyroid activity can drop, and again, cortisol increases. From the body's perspective, this makes sense. Less food means resources are limited. Limited resources mean fat should be saved, not spent, especially fat that can be accessed quickly in an emergency. Belly fat fits that role perfectly. This is why people can eat very little and still struggle with their waist. The body adapts faster than the plan expects. It learns to survive on less while holding on to what it believes is important. The result is a body that feels tired, cold, irritable, and stuck, even while effort increases. This mismatch between effort and outcome explains why so many people feel betrayed by their own discipline. Weight loss in other areas creates false hope. The scale dropping creates motivation, but the belly staying creates doubt. The logical explanation is simple. Fat loss does not happen evenly. It happens according to priorities set by hormones and signals. When stress is high and energy feels scarce, the belly is protected. When stress is low and energy feels stable, the body becomes more willing to release it. Harder work without recovery sends the wrong signal. Less food without stability sends the wrong signal. Together, they amplify each other. This is why extreme plans often fail long term. They ask the body to give up protection while also feeling threatened. That is not how survival systems work. The shift that actually works begins with a different mindset, not fighting the body, but understanding it, not forcing change, but creating conditions for change. The body responds to signals, not intentions. It does not care how motivated someone feels. It reacts to sleep, food timing, stress levels, and recovery. Lowering stress before lowering calories sounds backwards to many people, but it aligns with biology. When stress drops, cortisol drops. When cortisol drops, insulin sensitivity improves. When insulin sensitivity improves, fat storage decreases. This chain reaction cannot be rushed, but it can be supported. Eating enough to feel stable is part of that support. Not overeating, but not starving. Regular meals tell the body that food is predictable. Predictability lowers threat perception. Movement that energizes instead of exhausts sends a different message. It says the body is capable, not desperate. Rest reinforces that message. Sleep completes it. This reframing removes the idea that fat loss must feel miserable to work. It replaces punishment with cooperation. The goal is not to burn as many calories as possible, but to send calm, consistent signals. When the body feels safe, it becomes more flexible. Metabolism can increase naturally. Energy improves. Hunger normalizes. And fat loss becomes easier to maintain. This does not mean effort disappears. It means effort is applied intelligently. Consistent routines beat extreme bursts. Moderate movement repeated daily beats intense sessions followed by burnout. Balanced eating beats cycles of restriction and loss of control. These patterns work because they align with how the nervous system prefers to operate. Logic supports this approach without needing complex studies. If belly fat is the last to appear during weight gain, it makes sense that it would be the last to leave. If the body stores fat during stressful periods, it follows that reducing stress would reverse that process. If extreme actions increase stress hormones, it follows that calmer actions would reduce them. The body seeks balance. When balance is restored, systems that were defensive can relax. Calm routines work better because they are repeatable. They do not spike cortisol. They do not create fear around food. They do not exhaust recovery systems. Over time, they build trust between the body and the environment. Trust is an overlooked factor in fat loss. A body that trusts its environment does not cling to reserves. Consistency beats intensity for the same reason. Intensity is a shock. Consistency is a signal. Shocks demand defense. Signals invite adaptation. When meals are regular, sleep is protected, and movement is steady, the body adapts in a positive direction. When routines are chaotic, the body stays alert. Alert bodies do not let go of belly fat easily. This is why people with calm lifestyles often look leaner without extreme effort. Their biology is not constantly preparing for threat. The big takeaway becomes clear through this logic. Belly fat is not stubborn. It is protective. It is doing a job based on the information it receives. When that information changes, the job changes. Fat loss is not unlocked by force. It is unlocked by safety. Once stress signals lower and energy feels stable, the body no longer needs to defend the waist. Release becomes possible, not overnight, but reliably. The struggle makes sense when viewed through this lens. And once it makes sense, the path forward becomes clearer without needing to fight harder or suffer more. Now you can see that belly fat is not an enemy to attack, but a signal to understand. Once the body feels safe, supported, and balanced, it no longer needs to protect the waist the way it does under stress. That single shift changes everything. But this is only the foundation. The next piece is just as important, because the foods you eat can either keep sending stress signals or quietly lock in the progress you make. In the next video, we'll break down exactly what to eat to keep belly fat off forever in a simple, realistic way that fits real life and real routines. If this explanation helped things finally make sense, support the channel by liking this video, sharing it with someone who's been struggling, and subscribing so you don't miss what's coming next. Stay curious, stay consistent, and I'll see you in the next one.